What double standards disgust you? Story 1. The employee should give 2 weeks' notice. Anything else is unprofessional. But the employer will actively obscure their intentions until the very last minute. I trained my replacement once, who had been introduced to me as my assistant, so obviously I wanted to teach them the job properly. I came into work after my weekend and was called over by my boss and told that my assistant had transitioned into my position and thank you for helping them ease into the role. I'm done with this one entirely. A few employers I've given 2 weeks' notice, they've tried to cut it short and screw me out of a paycheck. The last one walked people out of the door, routinely, the day off, despite the notice, and they had the audacity to tell me I was unprofessional. Like, why would I give you a notice? You haven't respected it when a single one of my colleagues did. Just complete lack of perspective. I've done this before. I gave them about 10-day notice as I needed to start a new job. The manager goes, I'm blacklisting you from applying to the company for 3 years for not giving 2 weeks. Well then, I guess her response solidified my decision to leave, so I ended up telling her that I'm using the remainder of my vacation from the day until my last day. That didn't go well. I had a part-time job as a barista at Starbucks for about 18 months. It was the only way to keep our family's health insurance and not go bankrupt after a catastrophic injury situation. Starbucks offers really good insurance for people who work 20 hours a week. I was 50 years old. I had 2 degrees and a bunch of experience, but I couldn't work full-time. When things had finally settled down enough that I could work full-time again, I got 2 job offers and both of them wanted me to start right away. Yay! Normal life. I was very happy. I told my manager to take me off of the schedule. She was very pissed. Like, how dare you cause me all this trouble? Now I have to redo the schedule. She told me I'd better not jump ship like this, or she wouldn't give me a good reference. I actually smiled at her. Honey, do you think I'm ever going to admit that I actually worked here? ETA. On the flip side, I had an employer who brought my entire team into the conference room, pretending it was for a meeting, and informed everyone that we were terminated, effective immediately. They collected the work laptops and escorted each person to their desk, had somebody standing there watching while we packed up, and within half an hour, we were all in the parking lot, unemployed. Kind of like that scene in Succession. There really is a big double standard here. Story 2. Men versus women. Guys as untrustworthy, skeevy characters around children. There was a guy who posted a while ago who portrayed my point exactly. About his experience being a teacher in infant school or something. Can't remember exactly, but the kids were pretty young. He loved being a teacher to help them, give them a good future, and watch them learn and develop into smart kids. However, there were a couple of occasions he got pulled aside from the head teacher for being inappropriate. One of them being talking to a young girl in the classroom/nurse's office and giving her some antiseptic cream and plaster for her scrapes, since she fell over in the playground. Purely because he was a guy, he was told parents might feel uncomfortable about that by his own head teacher. Like, leaving a crying, bleeding kid in the playground was a more appropriate idea than her own teacher helping her. Story 3. Playing video games is a waste of time, unproductive, and you should be ashamed of doing that in your free time if you're older than 18. In fact, you're immature if you do. But reading a book, watching TV or Netflix, going to a bar, club, etc. is completely fine and encouraged for all ages. Well, except bars and clubs. Why the hell do people despise video games specifically with such a passion? You're playing games when you could be doing something productive. Bullshit. You wouldn't say that to someone doing anything that I've specified above during their free time, but you would to someone playing games, regardless if they actually were productive during the rest of the day or not. Story 4. Wealthy people don't seem to be accountable for white-collar crimes like poor people who commit petty crimes. Wealthy people get huge tax breaks and can spend more money on themselves or invest to make even more. Investments are taxed at lower rates, so people that can afford to invest make even more. Meanwhile, those at the bottom get no wage adjustments for inflation, while the cost of everything else increases from inflation. Benefits and pensions are cut so that the wealthy get rich from the profits as a result of lower pay and benefits. Corporations can move to tax-sheltered countries to avoid paying more taxes. The average person gets none of this and is paying more out of pocket. Look at Bernie Madoff, who went for years stealing other people's money and no prosecutions from the 2008 financial crisis. I guess it's easier to go after the poor, powerless, and weak. Story 5. If you always arrive to work late, then you're in big trouble. If work never finishes on time, shrug, no big deal. I offer to work extra hours in salaried position to get the company over a hurdle. If they do the honorable thing and comp me hour for hour for my trouble, outright refuse because you're salaried, even though my giving up a few weekends would make a huge difference for the bottom line. So when they tried the extra hours mandatory free overtime thing later, I told them to piss up a rope. Story 6. Businesses should do whatever it takes to get ahead. But if the employee tries to make their life better or find a new job, they're lazy and ungrateful. Recently on here, there was a thread about employers hiding the pay for a posted position. Most people hated it as it was a waste of time to get the point where they were willing to tell you the pay, and it's an insulting amount. A few people were defending it. One guy said it only makes sense for the employer to hide this information from you and try to manipulate you about pay. From the employer's point of view, they need to pay you as little as possible, and if they post a salary, then people who want more than that will not apply. So no chance to underpay someone who is worth more. And they will have to deal with people who aren't good enough for that meager salary. So, according to this guy, really, it's for the best that they try to screw you with hidden a salary for job postings. He's saying this as if we're supposed to just agree with it and not stand up for ourselves and just bend over and take it. But us demanding to know the salary during the first contact about a job? Unacceptable. How dare we try to interfere with the company trying to screw us? Story 7. Cigarette butts. They're not biodegradable, and it's a fire hazard. We have issues with coffee cups, plastic bottles, etc., but we're totally fine with cigarette butts. If you're a smoker, make sure it only hurts you and nobody else. I just don't understand why lazy smokers feel it's okay to leave their butts on the ground, toss them out the window, and so on. They'll be within 10 feet of a trash can and still just litter. Why is that acceptable? Story 8. When I leave a job, I'm generally expected to give 2 weeks' notice so the company isn't left without essential things being done. When a company decides to let me go, though, no warning to start putting in applications or saving money. You're just gone. Total horseshit. Not in countries like Germany. It's harder for the company to get rid of you than you leaving. Story 9. If I wake up at 4 p.m. and go to bed at 9 a.m., I'm lazy, do nothing all day, etc. Wake up at 4 a.m., bed at 9, you're seen as a responsible member of society. Doesn't matter if you work the exact same number of hours, make the same money, do the exact amount of housework. Story 10. Child predators. Both men and women should receive the same charges. Story 11. Probably a bit late and will get buried, but the one that probably affects me the most directly is the idea that if I have my kids out with me alone, I'm either some miracle from the heavens doing God's work. A stranger actually said that to me. Or hearing the, "Aw, is it daddy's day to babysit?" Fuck you, Karen. I'm the stay-at-home parent, and it's not babysitting when they're my fucking kids. Mr. Mom came out in 1983, and I still can't get a break about it. Story 12. I was at the park working out a few years ago, and on a bench was a couple arguing. The girl proceeds to slap the crap out of her boyfriend. She then goes for another, but the dude blocked her and held her wrist. The girl then burst into tears and questions why he hurt her like that. To myself, I was thinking, wait, you can hit him, but when he defends himself, it's wrong? Like, what the fuck? Story 13. Benefiting from somebody performing a service while shitting on individuals who perform said service, thinking of sex work and minimum wage behavior. Story 14. Clothes from the women's sections fall apart after 6 months. Meanwhile, I have a 15-year-old shirt from the men's section that I still wear.